What up, everybody? It's the Rottweiler Patriots. I'm Vegas.
And I'm T-Bone.
And we're coming at you with another video today where we're going to discuss the Carolina Panthers 2024 draft. And T-Bone, as the residential Carolina Panthers fan, I am going to pass this one off to you.
Thank you, Vegas. So at pick 32, we took Xavier Leggett, and I didn't during my pre-draft video. I'll say again, I didn't have Leggett on a want or not want or fine with. But I will say I'm very much fine with him. I'm very much happy with him. He's very skilled wide receiver. Where we were able to get him, I was very pleased that we were able to get him there. Given the wide receivers the other one's taken, I'm very happy with that. I'm happy we were able to trade back into the first round and get him. So yeah, I mean, I think he's very skilled, and I think for our kind of our lackluster wide receiver room, adding this piece is very good. You can be kind of a relief piece. So far on the depth chart, the unofficial one, they have him as the starting right wide receiver. So uh, right in front of Jonathan Mingo. So I think that's awesome. So I like it. I think it's great. I think Leggett, Thielen, Mingo, and Johnson. I think that'd be very good. I think we are heading in the right direction. So I give it a very solid A.
Yeah, I mean, Leggett was not a guy who I was very high on headed into this draft, especially for the New England Patriots. I would definitely say that he is a guy who fits the Carolina Panthers much better than he does New England.
Oh yeah.
And so, again, I was not the highest on him. But overall, I actually do like this pick for the Carolina Panthers, and he's grown on me a little bit. So I think I like him a little more now than I did before, and I mean, he's a kid who really, really wanted to play for the Carolina Panthers, and I think that's going to benefit both you and him a
Oh yes.
lot, So I would agree that I'm a fan of this pick.
All right. Well, taking a look at the second round pick, I've got Jonathan Brooks, and I mean maybe B minus is a little bit too harsh, but I think with how who was available with the other with that pick at the time, I think we could have afforded to not take Jonathan Brooks, especially since Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders both have been proven to be fairly effective, and Canales was planning on working on them. However, I'm very okay with taking this because this is the first running back out of the draft. I like that. I'm very proud that we were able to take that guy. We were taking the first running back. This is ours. We're number one. Um, and also, Jonathan Brooks is, obviously some people may have questions about injury, and yeah, I get it. I have questions about that too. But he had very nice stats, comparable to Bijan Robinson. So, if we can make it work, it'll work. So, my only, the only reason for the kind of low grade is, there were other guys that I think we could have taken that we should have. But overall, I think this can work out very well if it works.
Yeah, I mean, Brooks, best running back in the draft, had a very good year for Texas last year. Was a big reason why they made the college football playoff. Obviously, the whole team was very good. They have to be to do so, but he was definitely a big part of their success. It's interesting to see, running backs have definitely fallen out of favor in the NFL, and you've seen that. He's middle of the second round, and he's the first running back pick. That's not something you see very often. There were several running backs that went in the first round last year, and now you see, obviously the overall talent and depth at running back this year was not nearly as good as last year. But it's interesting to see him fall this far. But I like this pick for Carolina. Their offense definitely needs a bit more talent on it. And, you have Chuba Hubbard, who is a solid number one guy. I like him, but, he isn't a superstar by any means. He's not going to carry your team to wins. He's going to do very good in assisting it, but he's not a massive game changer. And I'm not saying that's what Brooks is, but Brooks I definitely think has the potential to become that. And adding him to running back room, especially a room where Miles Sanders has struggled, I don't think is a bad thing. And I think there's going to create some healthy competition. And if Brooks turns out to be a really good running back, then that's going to be a big win for y'all. Having that 1-2 punch of him and Hubbard, I generally like this pick.
Well, moving on to the next pick is Trevin Wallace. So, okay, I get it. Some people may be, why not Peyton Wilson? Why not Peyton Wilson? I get it. I'm like, he's right there. Okay, it's our pick. We can take him, and we take Trevin Wallace instead. But I'm starting to grow on Trevin Wallace. I really am. His age, um, he did kind of have a down year. So hoping he can reach 2022 form, but he really fits well with the scheme and works well with depth. So I'm very excited to see how he will fit in um, well with the defense, and I'm very excited to see that. And I think he will fit in well. Peyton Wilson would also fit in well, but I'm really excited to see what Trevin Wallace does. Especially, he's not as tall as as Peyton Wilson, but he's about got the same weight, a little bit stockier. So and and so I'm very excited to see what goes with it. Obviously, Peyton Wilson, he's my boy, but still, this guy's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely take Peyton Wilson with this pick if I'm Carolina, and I think them not taking him here is a large mistake. Wilson is the best linebacker in this draft, and he will be a very good NFL football player, save any injuries, which, past injury issues might be the reason why they got scared away. But I mean, the last couple of years, he hasn't really had those issues, and I mean, he literally just won the award for best player, defensive player in all of college football last year. He won numerous awards. And so, that to me I think is a big loss. Like I thought, taking Wilson with their second round pick would have been a big time W. I was surprised he fell to the third round, and as we were kind of, watching the draft go along, I literally texted T-Bone and said, if Wilson falls to y'all in the third round, Dan Morgan looks like an absolute genius. And then Wilson falls to them in the third round and they select Trevin Wallace. And I mean, absolutely no disrespect to Trevin Wallace. He is a great football player. Overall, I think he is a great linebacker. And for, the value here in the third round, I really and truly am a fan. There were actually a lot of linebackers that, went ahead. Which makes me even more surprised that Wilson fell all the way back to the Steelers at the 35th pick of the third round. And I guess that injury history really scared teams, I think, more than it should have. But, Trevin Wallace is still good value for, this pick. And I think that he is definitely one of those guys who could become a very, very good NFL player. I mean no disrespect to him at all. I really and truly like the kid. I just think Wilson was the better pick here.
So coming up with our next pick, we have someone we're really excited for. We've got Jatavion Sanders. So obviously, I'm a little bit cautious for most of these picks, just because I'm a Panthers fan. I can't afford to have hype. But this guy, I'm especially excited for because I like his physicality. I like his pass catching. It gives Bryce immediately another excellent pass catcher. I know some people are putting Tommy Tremble above him, but Tommy Tremble is a little bit more of a blocking guy. So, um, having Jatavion as kind of that pass catching guy, I'm very excited for. And and kind of that sort of that lets the Panthers settle into maybe a two tight end scheme, maybe who knows. But I love it. Jatavion can turn those 50-50 balls into 70-30 balls, and he's just great. And I think being able to pick him up at, at this pick is very good. I think it's very very solid. So I'm excited, not too excited because can't afford to be too excited, but I have a good feeling about Jatavion Sanders, and if it all works out, I think it'll work out very well and give Bryce Young a very nice, very healthy, very physical, very large presence as a pass catcher.
Yeah, I mean, I am a really, really big fan of this pick. He's one of my favorite picks for the Panthers in this draft, for sure. I mean, again, another great player out of Texas who, again, had a very, very good year last year, went to the playoffs, and Sanders a good reason why. I think he's really going to be a great football player. I'm a huge fan of what I've seen out of him, and I would have argued that tight end was a position of need for y'all, and I would have liked to see you guys draft a tight end, and you know, Jatavion Sanders is a guy who I think could really and truly be a great football player. So I am a big fan of this pick.
And the next guy is Chow Smith Wade. So looking at Chow Smith Wade, he's a little undersized and he's kind of small. So that's kind of something to look out for. But he is pretty athletic. So going along with that, the reason the grade's a little bit lower is same with Brooks. I think we there were other guys that we could have taken that could have filled this position. Not, no just to Chow Smith Wade, but just it wasn't. I think we were kind of forcing it with Chow Smith Wade, but he is incredibly athletic. So maybe as kind of a depth piece, moving him to the nickelback. I think I'm seeing that on depth charts. So maybe it could work. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Chow Smith isn't a guy I know a ton about. I didn't really get a chance to take a look at him after the draft. I mean, you are right about him being undersized, and that's not always a deal breaker because Marcus Jones is definitely arguably undersized, but I also think he's a very very good football player. And maybe Chow Smith Wade is a guy who makes a spot for himself on the team in special teams. There's a lot of great football players who find a way to do that. But at the end of the day, it is depth at the cornerback position, which I think is a good thing for you guys, especially given some of the injury issues that you had with that position last year. I don't think shoring it up with depth is a bad thing at all. So, overall, I'm generally a fan of this pick.
And then obviously moving on to the next guy, we got Jaden Crumity. So this, I think I may have been a little bit low on him, but I think we could have probably taken the DT a little bit higher, but um, overall, I think part of what we did is also we're getting picks for next year to get competitive next year because we had nothing. We have nothing. We had not a lot last year either. To bring to the table. So kind of we were suffering. So Dan made some trades so we can be a little bit more competitive in next draft. But that being said, Jaden Crumity, I'm seeing a lot of him as a depth piece, and I like it. It can work for sure. Um, so I'm kind of, I'm interested to see where it breaks down. Not much to say, but we did kind of need a little bit of help in the DT position, but overall, who knows? Who knows? Who knows what'll happen?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the pick. I think you guys definitely needed to add some depth at that defensive tackle position, and this absolutely does that. I think Cremedi He's a guy who I think has some potential to him. I didn't get a real good chance to take as much of a look at him as I would have liked post draft, but overall I would consider myself a fan of this pick just because, and obviously you're talking about you could have gotten a defensive tackle higher, but I think that y'all definitely needed to focus a little more on the offense in this draft, and I think you did that in a really good way. So I have a little less of a problem with y'all waiting until the 6th round to get a guy you like. And you also talk about, not having picks. One of the things that I was really impressed with Carolina this year was, especially given the trade that they made last year to get Bryce Young and a lot of the trades that they've just made in general, I am genuinely amazed that they were able to get a pick in every single round of the draft this year. I was just surprised that they did that.
I'm very impressed as well. Dan was fixing Scott Fitterer's mess, man.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think he's done a good job. So, I think I'm a little higher on this pick than you are. But, overall, I think it's a good pick for the Panthers.
No, totally. Now the next guy, final guy, last but not least, is Michael Barrett. So, Michigan linebacker. It's just it felt kind of, I don't want to say forced, but I guess it's another depth piece. It's not nothing wowed me. Physicality, it's there. He could be a diamond in the rough, totally. But nothing really spoke to me about it. So I guess I might be a little low, might be a little bit cautious. But honestly, I sound like kind of like a beating a dead horse here, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, he might turn into something good. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you're adding depth to the linebacker position, and I don't think you needed it as much. I think you really got that, earlier, but, like, I don't, I think there is some potential for him, especially, someone coming out of Michigan. You know, you, I'm generally a fan of schools that produce good football players, and Michigan is a school that produces good football players. So, I don't know if this is necessarily the position, but at the end of the day, it's like the 7th round, you're more looking for diamonds in the rough than you are looking for guys that might fill positions in need. And if they liked this guy as a potential sleeper pick, I don't blame them.
Yeah.
I think C is a little harsh. I probably would have given this a B minus personally, but you know, I think generally pretty solid pick.
Well, looking at the grade, I personally overall for the Panthers draft would give them a B, just flat B. Yeah, maybe a little bit harsh, probably, but and that's not hating on Dan Morgan. I can't be hurt anymore, man. I can't be excited anymore. Not yet, at least. But I will say this: I'm waiting in anticipation to see how these picks work out, and I don't want to say I'm excited, but I'm watching eagerly, and I'm very anxious in a good way to see whether whether some of this works out. I mean, for the first time in Lord knows, I think it's been two drafts at least that we have been able to draft in every single round, and we're getting not only that, but we're getting competitive for next year as well, which I think is awesome. And the first thing I see, chiefly among this, is looking at Dan Morgan fixing Scott Fitterer's mess and really digging us out of that hole. So may not be the flashy move, may not be the cool move, but these are things that need to happen. And so yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to the year. Not completely, but I am. I'm looking forward. I think Dan Morgan has proven himself a very, very comparable, confident, comparable to a very solid GM, very, very confident GM, very solid GM so far. Very good overall. This draft, I give them a B. So yeah, good work.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything to learn from the Panthers of last year, any optimism definitely needs to be cautious, as you were, saying. And
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with a B grade for this draft. I think your front half of the draft was pretty good. You focused on filling skill positions on the offense. You got a wide receiver, you got a running back, you got a tight end, all of which are guys who I like those picks. And then you shored up stuff on defense. You got Wallace, you got Smith Wade, you got Krumidi. Overall, I think the Panthers did a good job this draft dealing with positions need and really just adding depth. And with Leggett, you're able to also get, some of that upfront talent that the team has definitely been lacking. And I think that he is a guy who definitely has the potential to become a game-changing wide receiver, which would really help Bryce and Carolina go a long way. So yeah, I would generally agree with this pick as a B, but we would love to hear what you all would grade the Carolina Panthers, so feel free to let us know down in the comments below. And that is going to do it for us today. Thank you all so very much for watching. Please be sure to hit the like button. Please be sure to subscribe. And we'll see you all in the next video.